Welcome back to Today we will learn about the issue stirring Salem as courtroom fireworks collide with complicated hearts and questionable timing. Sarah's second thoughts and a fragile apology. Sarah starts the week carrying equal parts courage and hesitation. Circling back to Brady after that impulsive kiss that blurred the lines between friendly comfort and something riskier. She apologizes, carefully, almost clinically. Yet the apology isn't about rejecting him as much as it's about owning the whiplash she feels after stepping out of one chapter and into a foggy next. She's still tender from the end of her relationship with Xander, and the truth is simple. It's hard to flirt while still nursing fractures. The apology, then, is less a retreat and more a request for patience, testing if Brady can be steady while she learns how to be brave again. Brady, ever the man who understands complicated timelines, doesn't press. He knows this isn't a door shutting. It's someone learning where the hinges are. The tension between them remains, humming like static in the silence. The question now is whether Sarah's concern is really about Brady, or about who she becomes if she lets herself want something honest and uncomplicated after years of chaos. Chad's hero complex meets Kat's deeper darkness elsewhere. Chad once again finds himself cast as the reluctant rescuer, arriving just in time to steady Kat outside an elevator in a scene that feels familiar for all the wrong reasons. There's the instinctual reach, the catch, the automatic kindness, but beneath the routine is a new awareness. Kat's troubles aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of something layered and unresolved. Chad can bandage a moment, sure, but this is no scraped knee. It's a patterned freefall. What complicates this is Kat's magnetism, a kind of chaotic gravity that makes good people overextend themselves in the name of being decent. Chad's aware that he's starting to function like a crutch, and that's dangerous for both of them. It hints at a different kind of intervention, the kind that takes expertise and humility to initiate, which is why Marlena's name keeps floating to the surface. Not as a rescuer for Chad, but as a safeguard for Kat. Marlena, the help Kat needs, whether she asks for it or not. Salem's most trusted therapist has stitched together more broken hearts and unknotted more patterns than most people realize. But even Marlena, with her legendary calm, has been stretched thin lately. Between personal obligations and professional promises, her calendar reads like a confessional. Still, Kat needs what Marlena provides: structure, accountability, and the gentle refusal to let temporary safety be confused with healing. If Chad steps back just enough to recommend Marlena, he could finally reframe the dynamic from rescues to resources. The hardest part won't be the referral. It'll be resisting the urge to swoop in every time Kat's edges fray. Healing requires distance. Connection requires boundaries. Chad must decide if he's ready to honor both. EJ escalates as Belle goes for the jugular in court. Belle walks in sharp and surgical, using her knowledge of EJ and Sammy's volatile history like a scalpel. She doesn't just question Johnny. She frames the past as evidence, reminding him and everyone listening that power and obsession leave fingerprints. EJ is not a man who tolerates surgical cuts without a counterstrike, and his response is as explosive as it is calculated. He drags his own affair with Belle into the light, not merely to shame but to shock the proceedings into paralysis. Then he goes for the procedural jugular, moving to dismiss. It's a nuclear move dressed as legal strategy. Belle, furious, doesn't just bristle at the humiliation. She recognizes the tactic. When EJ feels cornered, he expands the battlefield. Monday becomes an 8-hour standoff of cold fury and raised voices, as the fallout strains personal history and legal decorum in equal measure. Johnny in the crosshairs. Johnny stands in the middle of this storm, not just as a witness but as a son tethered to a father with a long memory and a short fuse. Belle wants clarity. EJ wants control. Johnny wants something no courtroom can deliver: a world where both truth and loyalty can coexist without tearing a family in half. The spectacle of it all, the crossed questions, the weaponized secrets, pushes Johnny closer to a line he can't uncross. By day's end, he's learned a brutal Salem lesson. In this town, the past isn't just prologue. it's leverage. Sarah and Brady. Friends, sparks, and the risk of timing back on the personal front. Sarah's apology doesn't extinguish the spark with Brady. It refines it. They've moved from flirty banter to careful honesty. Just friends no longer fits, but something more isn't steady enough to stand on yet. Sarah's not trying to rewind. She's trying to slow play a feeling that could be real if it isn't rushed. Brady's willing to meet her there, to be the page turn rather than the plot twist. And yet, there's an edge. Once a boundary is crossed, even gently, the air changes. They both feel it. The next move won't be about passion. It'll be about permission. Does Sarah allow herself to start again without apology? Does Brady allow himself to hope without expecting? Meanwhile, Xander and Gabby light a match while Sarah calibrates her heart. Xander meets privately with Gabby, and the temperature spikes for an entirely different reason. There's no kiss, no soft music. Just a verbal sparring match loaded with implication. Gabby scolds, Xander bristles, and the friction crackles into something dangerously compelling. Salem history is littered with couples who began with a clash and ended in a flame. This feels like one of those openings. A pairing built on audacity, ambition, and the perverse chemistry of two people who like each other best when they're not supposed to. For Xander, this is a fork in the road. He can play it safe with righteous intentions, or he can embrace the chaos that, frankly, suits him. Gabby isn't a detour, she's an accelerant. If they keep meeting, they won't stay adversaries for long. The dominoes are set. If Chad calls Marlena, Kat's story shifts from cliffhangers to clinical progress, and that could either save her or expose deeper fractures. If Belle doubles down after EJ's stunt, expect the courtroom to become less about law and more about leverage. If Sarah and Brady choose the long game, their chemistry could become the kind that lasts. And if Xander keeps circling Gabby, Salem's next headline romance might be born out of a scold rather than a kiss. In Salem, Monday doesn't just reset the week, it rewrites motives. Apologies carry weight, secrets collect interest, and desire finds the one place it shouldn't be and settles there anyway. Next, we dive deep into one of the most intriguing mysteries unfolding in Salem, the curious case of Susan Banks and the strange energy she claims to sense. Could this be the spirit of the infamous Stefano DiMera reaching out from beyond the grave? Or is something far more unexpected lurking in the shadows of the DiMera mansion? Buckle up, because this twist-filled journey takes us through hidden tunnels, shocking returns, and the possibility of dangerous schemes in motion. The enigmatic return of Susan Banks fans were caught off guard when Susan Banks, played with eccentric charm by Stacey Hayduk, reappeared in Salem without much warning. Known for her quirky mannerisms, psychic inclinations, and occasional tendency to get herself tangled in wild adventures, Susan has never been a background character. Her sudden arrival has already stirred rumors, but what truly has everyone on edge is her claim. She can now communicate with the dead. This bold declaration naturally led many to believe she was sensing none other than the legendary Stefano DiMera, the Phoenix himself, brought to life for decades by Joseph Mascalo. Stefano's legacy looms over Salem like an unshakable shadow, and Susan's connection to him makes the claim almost believable. But here's the twist. What if she's wrong? What if the presence she's picking up on isn't Stefano at all? The mystery behind the portrait one detail Susan shared caught viewers' attention. She claimed she could sense something from Stefano's iconic portrait in the DiMera mansion. This image of the Phoenix has long been a symbolic and sometimes sinister presence in the DiMera household. But in Salem, portraits are never just decoration. What if Susan's sensation wasn't spiritual at all, but physical? Could someone be hiding behind that painting? Longtime viewers know the DiMera estate is practically a labyrinth, riddled with hidden panels, trapdoors, and underground tunnels. Entire people have been concealed in these secret chambers for months without detection. It's a DiMera family tradition at this point. Secrets don't just stay buried. They get locked away behind ornate walls. The tunnel theory: if someone is hiding behind the portrait, the DiMera tunnels would be the perfect cover. These underground passages have been used for everything from smuggling to kidnapping, and they've played host to countless dramatic rescues and daring escapes. Over the years, enemies, lovers, and even supposed corpses have found themselves wandering through these shadowy halls. So who could be in there now? My theory, and one that's gaining traction among fans, is that Stefan DiMera, Brandon Barish, might be lurking in those hidden depths. Recently, both Tony DiMera, Theo Penglis, and EJ DiMera have casually dropped his name into conversation, almost as if to plant seeds in the audience's mind. Coincidence? In Salem, there's no such thing. Stefan's complicated situation, Stefan's romantic entanglement with Gabby Hernandez, has been one of the most passionate and most tumultuous relationships in recent DOL history. Their connection is undeniable, but so are the obstacles constantly thrown in their way. Enter Vivian Alamain, Louise Sorrell, a woman who has never been shy about manipulating events to her advantage. Vivian despises the thought of Stefan and Gabby being together. Her solution, a classic soap opera move. She allegedly kidnapped Stefan and forced him to sign divorce papers, effectively cutting Gabby out of his life. If this is true, it would explain why Stefan hasn't been seen, despite his name coming up repeatedly. Brainwashing in Salem? Absolutely. The possibility that Vivian is holding Stefan captive is alarming enough, but Salem history teaches us that kidnappings rarely stop there. Vivian is no stranger to psychological manipulation, and brainwashing is practically a standard weapon in the Salem villain arsenal. Imagine this. Vivian keeping Stefan in isolation, slowly conditioning him to forget his love for Gabby and instead pledge loyalty to her plans. By the time he reemerges, Stefan could be a completely different man, one who no longer remembers the passion, loyalty, and sacrifices he once shared with Gabby. This would set up not only a thrilling reunion storyline, but also a battle for Stefan's very identity. Susan's role in the mystery now. Let's circle back to Susan. If the presence she's feeling isn't Stefano's ghost, but Stefan himself, then her psychic ability might be less supernatural and more intuition, or perhaps even just a coincidence. But Susan's unpredictability makes her a wild card in all of this. She could stumble upon the truth without fully realizing it, or she could become a target herself if Vivian senses she's getting too close. Susan has been underestimated before, but her knack for survival and her tendency to blurt out uncomfortable truths at exactly the wrong time make her a dangerous variable in any villain's scheme. Final thoughts in true Days of Our Lives fashion. Nothing is ever exactly what it seems. Stefano's legacy may not be returning from the dead this time, but his influence still haunts the DiMera family. Whether Susan is truly communing with the dead or simply sensing a very much alive captive in the tunnels, her return promises to shake Salem in ways we can't yet predict. One thing is certain. Keep an eye on that portrait, because in Salem the walls really do have ears, and sometimes they have DiMeras hiding behind them.